Hey guys, welcome to House Talk. I'm Dylan Chalk here with Charlie Buell, and we got an episode coming up where we are going to talk about what the heck is a barge rafter. This was actually kind of inspired by a great blog that Charlie wrote. You can find it out there on Al Gore's World Wide Web. And yeah, barge rafters. I mean, that's a word that not everybody uses. Do you ever mention the barge rafter to like clients and realtors and stuff, and they don't know what you're talking about?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know if I ever get that reaction or not, but I just talk about barge rafters in the report, and when you show a picture of one rotting, I think they make the connection.
Yeah, yeah.
I have never had anybody ask me, well, what's a hex a barge rafter?
Yeah, well, I
But
mean that comes up for us in general on home inspections, and you get a lot of people I feel like, talk about not wanting to use language that confuses the clients and stuff. But I also kind of feel like our job is to try to educate people about the correct terminology, and it can make a really big difference, certainly in your report writing, but I think also in
absolutely, in almost every instance, if you have a picture with what you're talking about, people are immediately educated.
yeah.
It's not like, well, what's a bar drafter or what's a receptacle or what's
Great. That's a
anything.
great point, especially reading the report, and it's like, well, it's right there. You kind of know, and now they know the correct vocabulary to use. You've kind of,
That's right.
and I think that's definitely part of our goal as home inspectors. So what a cool topic for a podcast. So if you don't know what a bar drafter is, I guess we've got a diagram of it right here on the very first slide. But I think a lot of people would call this the fascia, right, Charlie?
Yeah, and I think a bar drafter can be part of the fascia that wraps around the building, but fascia for me is more the one where the gutter gets mounted,
Mm-hmm.
or,
Yeah.
whereas the bar drafter, and it only applies to a gable roof.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's right. Not a hip roof, right? Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So in a
So,
hip roof, the fascia is going to go all the way around, obviously, and
yeah. So if you're listening and you're not watching this on YouTube, then the barge rafter would be on a gable roof, and it's kind of on the gable end of the roof, and it's the fascia board there that kind of sticks out past the roof. So why does this come up on home inspections? I mean, the kind of obvious thing here. Well, I'll bring up another picture if you guys are watching on YouTube. This is a nice picture of the barge rafter sticking out past the gutter. This is a classic Pacific Northwest detail here, taken on a beautiful Pacific Northwest day. It's all
yeah,
sunny.
even gets two of them.
Yeah, yeah, you got the one in the background. That's really nice. If you're listening, the barge rafter with this detail we're talking about often sticks out past the gutter, and it's a classic place where you develop wood decay. The picture we're looking at, you've got a roofing shingle kind of protecting this piece of wood as it projects out past the gutter. But we'll bring up another slide here where what tends to happen is the shingles kind of get damaged or blow off in a windstorm, or people cleaning out their gutters or whatever, and then that little piece of barge rafter or fascia gets exposed to the weather, and then you shake and stir and you wait 30 years and it all rots out, right?
Yeah, or 5 years for whitewood.
That's right. Yeah, that spruce will rot in no time. So it's a common repair item. I call it out all the time on my home inspections. Here would be another example of just a rotted barge rafter. So I thought it would be interesting, and Charlie thought it would be interesting to maybe kind of unpack a building code on this. I mean, it is kind of funny almost to have a detail of a house that is so ubiquitously wrong, right? I mean, if you bring me to a 1990s house, the odds of me not finding a wood decay on the barge rafter are not super good. It's most houses seem to have it. So maybe we could understand a little bit about the codes of why it's like that, and then also some of the code changes of hopefully why we stop seeing it so much in the future. Um, Charlie, you brought up this is some code from 1994, the UBC. You want to read this to us and kind of give us some?
Yeah. So Section 1509, at the juncture of the roof and vertical surfaces, flashing and counter flashing shall be provided per roofing manufacturer's instructions. So the code is deferring here. They're not going to get real specific. And then, of course, it does say how thick the metal has to be.
Yep. Yep.
And then flashing and counterflashing exterior openings exposed to the weather shall be flashed in such a manner as to make them what weatherproof.
Yep.
This this technically, in my opinion, means kick out flashings,
Yep.
but it doesn't say it specific enough that the average person could read that and interpret it in the
No, I
most
mean, right.
expensive way.
Yeah, you can drive a bus through all the loopholes there. I mean, it's just
Yeah, yeah,
super vague language. Not a lot to really go off of. The one thing I would point out, especially if you're a newer home inspector, that in such a manner as to make it weatherproof, that's the kind of language that's in the code quite a bit, and it's when in doubt. That's actually one of those sort of things I go back to all the time. If I, pick your thing. It could be a windowsill that has reverse slope and is not sloped to drain, or a flashing that is sort of butted up and doesn't overlap in a weatherproof fashion. But that is nice go-to language for me in my report writing.
yeah. But even weatherproof can be under what conditions?
That's right.
Are we
Yeah.
talking about under, just gravity and rain running down the side of the building? But if you're talking about sucking water into the house under negative pressure, then it starts to go uphill even.
Yeah.
So how much does it have to lap? And all of these questions to make it truly weatherproof.
Yeah. Well, and so how interesting. So they've kind of to kind of get at answering your question more, to be more specific, the code changed, right? And part of answering your question would be a combination of code changes, but also manufacturer's installation
Yeah,
requirements.
yeah.
So why don't you unpack this one for us? You grabbed this from the roofing section, right? This is R903.1. So the roofing section of the 2000 IRC.
Right, and that's our first real modern code adoption, moving away from UBC, which was covered all kinds of buildings. This is specifically to the residential, and it carries much of the same language forward. Um, the thing about flashings shall be installed in such a manner as to prevent moisture entering the wall through joints in the coping through moisture permeable material at intersections with the roof plane or at parapet wall penetrations. So, they're getting a little bit more specific as to where all these problem areas are.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and of course, it repeats flashing shall be installed at wall roof intersections wherever there is a change in roof slope or direction.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And around roof openings. Obviously, we don't like to leave big holes in the roof. So that kind of gets to, is that extended part of your barge rafter, isn't that a little mini roof that needs to be covered?
yeah.
It doesn't affect the interior perhaps, but it's still a roof.
Yeah. No, and yeah, that's interesting. The other thing that just strikes me here, we've got a few slides that we'll get to in the end, but where a change in the roof slope or direction, and boy, you don't always see flashings in those locations. We'll talk about that a little more. So cool. That's from the 2000 IRC. So the 2000 IRC, the wall section, you copied some code for us as well, and this is a lot more specific than the roofing. You want to unpack this one for us a little bit?
Yeah. Well, again, it's corrosion resisting flashings, which is typical. The flashing shall extend to the surface of the exterior wall finish and shall be installed to prevent water from re-entering the exterior wall envelope.
Yeah.
So again, that's speaking to diverter flashings and the kick out flashings, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, the big one that I see here that, for barge rafters now, again, this is 2000 IRC and this is in the wall section, but continuously above all projecting wood trim.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
so really as of 2000, Those barge rafters should have had a flashing for them, at least according to IRC.
Yeah, they may be more thinking about trim that sticks through siding and past the siding
Yeah, yeah.
around windows and whatnot, and meaning flat head flashings above their doors,
But
etc.
but isn't that an interesting one too for that cap over trim detail that you see? That I mean, I've
Hmm.
seen that on new construction all the time. And
Or,
if you're listening or even watching, because we don't have a slide of that, that's the type of trim where the window is installed right up to the siding, and then just somebody sort of picture frames the wood right over the top of the siding
right, right.
without benefit of a flashing. And
Yeah. And corbels is another one that's extending continuously above it, projecting wood trim.
you mean like the corbels, like the entry porch posts and stuff like
Well,
that you
that,
see?
that extend by a barge rafter, for example.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Those
Yeah.
knee braces that
Yep.
have, and they always rot out.
Mm-hmm.
And at least the newer ones, the older ones seem to hold up really well.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
so they should be flashed, and really high end jobs they will be.
Yep. But no, but you don't see it in the basic production construction often. So,
Not
as late
really.
as 20 years ago, we had provisions for that and under the siding and the IRC. So that is
Yeah,
interesting.
that's what I find interesting. People think, well, is that new to the code? Well, no. I mean, it was in the 2000, the first one, and it was in the UBC in simpler language before that.
Yep.
And
Yep. You can
uh,
certainly see for that 90s code reference was pretty darn vague. That wasn't a lot there, but this is getting a lot more specific. Um, you brought in one more piece of code for us. This is the roofing section of the IRC from 2008. Um,
yeah, flashing shall be installed in a manner that prevents moisture from entering the wall and roof through joints and copings. That's the
yeah, that's
same
the
as
same. Yeah,
before. Flashing shall be installed at wall and roof intersections wherever there is a change in roof slope or direction
yeah,
and
that's
around
yeah,
roof openings. Flashing shall be installed to divert water away from where the eave of a sloped roof intersects a vertical side wall. So
yeah. So
there's
that's the money sentence in this one, right? That's
That's
different.
right. And that's what the codes have been working towards all the way along. They just never said it as
Yeah.
clearly. And some people read that and they don't see that saying uh, kick out flashing. Why didn't
Hmm.
they just say a kick out flashing is required at the vertical
Exactly. Yeah.
intersection?
Yeah.
Because the code doesn't work like that.
I
It
know.
tries to leave leeway and not name specific things often.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
even
How?
flashing, we all think flashing, we think metal, but there's lots of other kinds of flashing materials, plastics, and uh, so they don't want to pin you down or
Yeah.
pin themselves down. And when they pin themselves down, they usually get in trouble. They'd end up
Interesting.
with amendments and
Yep. Yeah. Well, interesting. I mean, that's kind of a neat walk through, I don't know, what, 20 years or 15 years of code cycles and how we're getting more specific. But the bottom line, if you're a home inspector, these barge rafters should have flashings protecting them and should arguably have redirect flashings. This is kind of the final thing we wanted to talk about today. But here's a great image of just trying to prevent all the water from rushing down here. I mean, I don't know about you, but you see this detail on a rainy day and you walk under there and you get
yeah,
soaking wet. um,
tremendous amounts of water can shed off that little 2 inch or 3 inch strip, depending on how big the roof is and how much the roof overhang sags.
yeah,
Yeah, number of things, but
yeah. So redirect flashing is really important. This is a illustration you did and shared with me that I actually use in all my reports whenever I need to call out redirect flashings. Nice image here. And I brought up just a couple other slides, but I mean, redirect flashings, a place that they're very rarely installed and we could use them is these little spots on a chimney. And if you're listening, this is a wood chimney chase kind of led into the roof slightly. And where it is, the water can run down the roof and hit the side of the chimney, and then it often just runs down the entire length of the chimney. And, fairly common to see a bunch of water damage at the base there, huh?
That's probably one of the most difficult areas because nobody wants to put a cricket there, because then the face of the cricket shows over the edge of the roof.
Yep. Yep.
So it's a really, it doesn't take much slope though. You could install that
Yeah,
flashing. That's
have this slope, but then you even see the realistic problem here, which is all the debris ends up kind of clogging it
yeah,
all up.
exactly.
I've always felt that a sequence of a couple redirect flashings would really help to kind of push water around that chimney and back onto the roof. We want the water ending up in this gutter, but
Yeah.
that can be tricky, and I don't often see a redirect flashing here. Um,
Well, and part of it's our obsession with trying to make houses look like something they aren't. Like, what's the point of a wood-covered chimney?
yeah,
you know,
right, yeah,
how about just letting the direct vent pipe stick up through the roof
yeah.
instead of having any chase at all?
Yeah.
But
Well, and these are pretty much dead now. I mean, at least where I am, I never see these box chimneys on new construction. I mean, we've kind of gone to direct vent stuff where there's
yeah,
fireplaces.
yeah,
So,
that's
um,
it's a couple of grand expense they can
yep,
throw somewhere else
yeah, that's
in
right.
their pocket.
But it's interesting, the direct vent equipment has finally kind of driven a stake through the chimney that they're pretty much
Yeah,
gone,
yeah,
at least
yeah.
around here, maybe in other parts of the country or other parts of the
Well,
world.
it started with the metal bestis and triple wall chimneys that were still wood burning, but you could get rid of all that masonry and just have them go up through a chase like this.
Yep, yeah, that was the first step to get rid of the masonry chimneys. Yeah. And now I think we've kind of gotten rid of the wood boxes, so that's probably a good
Yeah, I
thing.
think so.
But another place you can have redirect flashings would be, places where the roof doesn't drain properly. And this, what we're looking at, is a picture of a small little gable roof above an entry, and it's draining toward the side of the house, which is always a
Yeah.
design that super counterintuitive.
Typically, they'll install some sort of really low, usually single ply membrane covered triangular valley there.
Yep, yep.
The,
In the old ones, they'd be like a torch down or something. Yeah.
yeah,
Sometimes that's all you can do,
above
but
the torch down ones on a 50-year roof. I mean, that's what the
yeah,
see, there's another inconsistency for me in the codes that any flashing, any valley material, any pipe flashing should be rated for the same life of the shingles
yeah,
they're installed with,
yeah.
but we don't do
Commensurate service life, right? Yeah.
that. Hmm.
No, I mean, we really see that with the heavy roofs, and then they put, the cheapo neoprene flat, uh,
Yeah,
plumbing
15-year pipe
boots.
flashing.
Yeah, yeah. Where else do you see it? Hardy siding with the spruce trim is another one that's always drives
Yeah,
me
it is.
nuts.
It is. Unless it's done, oftentimes the wrap around the windows is done sacrificially, where it's just when it rots, you put new on.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and it does seem like some of that spruce seems better than others. I mean, I've seen some that's pretty thick and looks nice, and a lot of it is just waiting to rot. But cool. Well, I hope this was a fun journey, guys. We unpacked barge rafters, talked a little bit about some of why those barge rafters by code should really be flashed, not only today but even 20 years ago, and kind of looked at a little history of the codes. I hope that was helpful and kind of enlightening to just see how some of these things have changed over the years. Charlie, anything else to add here?
I can't think of anything. I think we covered it. We didn't talk about the edge flashing that shows in this picture under
Yeah, the
that
drip
is now
edge.
required,
Yeah,
along with on the fascia, it's required as well. But that metal should be what caps that barge rafter, really.
yeah. And here they've actually done a pretty nice job. They've gone all the way down to the base
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
barge rafter.
exactly. And then the shingles just decorative on top.
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of nicely done. And that's the drip edge flashing is it's a great little tool for dating roofs. But when I don't see a drip edge, I instantly know I'm dealing with a roof that's probably 10 or 15 years old at least.
But it's interesting that the flange that lays on the roof under the shingles is 4 inches wide. And why don't they just bend it down around the back of the barge rafter to really protect it?
Oh, back here, like down at the
Yeah,
bottom of
yeah.
it. Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that
They
would be a
just
better
cut it off
detail.
flush.
Yeah, they often, I don't ever see it bent over really.
But you don't ever see the full 4 inches wide going across either,
No.
which is kind of, for me, I would bend it over this to look a little bit like it does on the showy side, the
Yeah.
face side.
Well, this is interesting too. In this particular picture, you don't see a gutter, but there's often sort of a gutter blocking it right in that spot.
Yeah, that would be, yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a lot of roof, but sometimes they'll put a gutter just decoratively to, I've seen little gutters like that with no
I
outlets,
know, right?
just,
Because there's nowhere to run a downspout. I'm sure that's why they didn't put a gutter
but
there.
you'll see them with Kurosari chains,
Yeah.
just as a decorative thing. The gutter looks good there because you got them everywhere else in the house, and you put a little
What did you call the chain, Charlie?
Kurosari chain.
And do you know where that word comes from? I've never heard that.
It comes from Japan, I think.
Okay. It certainly
Yeah,
sounds
a
Japanese.
rain chain is the
Yeah, that's kind of what I've always thought of them as, a Kurosawa chain. Cool.
uh,
All right.
yeah,
Well, we'll have to
yeah.
look. Maybe the next podcast we'll unpack
A
that
whole podcast on just Kurosari chain.
one. On the thing that we hope we never see, at least in the Northwest, those don't really cut it
I got
around
one
here.
on my house.
You
What do you
do?
think?
Oh, jeez.
I've got a little roof that's overhangs over my dining room window. It's about 3 feet by 8 feet, and it
Yeah,
drains to a gutter and has a Kurosari chain that goes right into the garden.
that's awesome. Well, they do work for small little roof pitches and stuff, or
Absolutely,
if you've
yeah.
got really big roof overhangs. And I've actually seen some designs with like big, huge roof overhangs and a really large catchment drain system that they've clearly run all the way around the house, and then they'll use the chain drain.
Yeah, all they're doing is preventing the water from hitting the ground hard.
That's right, just kind of slowing the water. Yeah, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, well, I
All
hope this was
right.
a fun
Good.
journey into barge rafters, everybody, and we'll see you next time. See you, Charlie.
Adios. All right. Bye.
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 This was a presentation of House Talk with Dylan Chalk and Charles Buell. As always, a big thanks to Scribeware Software, the best home inspection report software in the industry. And a thanks to The Confident House Hunter, a fabulous resource for helping homeowners and real estate agents get out in front of the home inspection. Thanks for watching.